is 9 News with Michael Genovese.
Good evening. The US Secretary of State has called the short-lived armed rebellion by a mercenary leader in Russia extraordinary. Antony Blinken saying the cracks are starting to show in Vladimir Putin's grip on power.
A return to relative normality in Russia 24 hours after Moscow was bracing for a rapidly advancing armed rebellion. In the south, Wagner forces going, but leaving their mark where they'd claimed control of military headquarters. It was scary and it ended sort of suddenly, this man says. In an interview airing on Russian state TV today, Vladimir Putin didn't directly acknowledge the biggest ever threat to his leadership. Recently, I've been going to bed late, but I'm always in touch, he said, when questioned about his workload. But it's unclear when it was recorded. Wagner's march to Moscow was unexpectedly halted by its leader, Yevgeny Prigozhin, under a secret deal brokered by the Belarusian president. Prigozhin, now believed to be in exile in Belarus. It's been revealed US spy agencies picked up intelligence on the astonishing internal revolt against the Kremlin earlier this month.
This is clearly, we see cracks emerging. Where they go, if anywhere, when they get there, very hard to say. I don't want to speculate on it. But I don't think we've seen the final act.
Key questions remain about the deal and what happens to the Wagner Group.
What happens to Prigozhin's forces? Do they remain in Ukraine?
A former British Army chief warning Prigozhin may still command his loyal troops.
There is a possible threat that they might pose from Belarus to Kyiv. And if I was the Ukrainian commander-in-chief, I would watch that front very carefully.
Volodymyr Zelensky tweeting he's spoken with the US president about the weekend's events and discussed further defence support with an emphasis on long-range weapons. In London, Edward Godfrey, 9 News.
And there's been a development in the bizarre standoff between Russia and Australia in Canberra, where a Russian diplomat has been squatting. Here's Fiona Willan.
This rather eventful episode has now come to an end. A Russian diplomat who spent days squatting on land next to Parliament House, where Moscow wanted to build an embassy, has now vacated the site after the High Court rejected a bid by Russia to hang on to the land. The legal action was launched after Parliament rushed through laws to cancel the lease for the site due to national security concerns. The Prime Minister welcomed the court outcome this afternoon while pledging an extra $110 million in military support for Ukraine, as the focus also turned to the finances of Australians in need. Kayla Kamaji has a new mouth to feed.
She's eating food now, so that's more expensive as well.
While she's on maternity leave, her family's relying on her husband's full-time income, which no longer stretches as far due to inflation.
I'm more strict and I have to really budget and, you're always stressing about money.
It's even more stressful for those on the minimum wage, with new modelling revealing the extent of the problem.
This is not a good situation. It's not one that should be happening in a country like Australia.
Anglicare's first cost of living index shows a full-time minimum wage worker has just $57 left after covering weekly expenses such as rent, food, transport and childcare. A family of 4 with 2 full-time minimum wage workers has just $73 remaining each week. And single parents on the minimum wage can't even afford the essentials.
Alarmingly, when we look at a single parent with 1 child, they are going backward by $180 each and every week.
The report shows housing has taken the biggest hit to household budgets, with rents increasing by 30% since 2020.
There are an increasing number of Australian families who just can't afford to pay their rent or pay their mortgage.
The government says cost of living relief is on the way, with a range of measures kicking in next month, including cheaper childcare for 1.2 million families. With subsidies climbing from July 10, a family on $120,000 with 1 child in care 3 days a week will be $1,900 a year better off, or more than $3,300 if their earnings reach $180,000. On that same income, with 1 child in daycare and 1 in after-school care, they would save more than $4,000 a year.
Childcare is expensive. It's gone up by about 49% in the last 10 years. That's why this is so important.
Fiona Willan, 9 News.
Pop star Guy Sebastian's former manager, Titus Day, is right now on his way home from prison, 7 months after being jailed for embezzling hundreds of thousands of dollars from the singer. Live to Bianca Balzer in Sydney. Bianca, a huge turnaround for the embattled music executive. What's happened?
It is a huge turnaround, and it has actually come as a shock to many people involved. It was 5:30 this evening, Michael, technically after court hours, when the court decided to convene to hear an urgent bail application for Titus Day, and prosecutors actually did not object to his release. And so right now the former talent agent is on his way back home here to Bondi. He served 7 months of his minimum 2.5-year prison sentence. It was last week that his legal team made their case for an appeal, and it was just this afternoon that his lawyer Lauren McDougall found out they had been successful on one of the grounds, and that was that there had been a miscarriage of justice in relation to the Crown's closing address. Now, what this means is that Guy Sebastian's former manager could face a retrial. There's also the chance he could be acquitted altogether, with a panel of judges still to decide on the rest of the case. Michael?
Bianca Balzer, thanks for the update. The family of paramedic Stephen Toga has opened up about the birth of his baby girl, telling A Current Affair of their mission to introduce new laws to improve safety for emergency workers. Lily Mae Stevie Toga was born in May, 2 months after Stephen was stabbed to death outside a McDonald's in southwestern Sydney.
He was just so proud, and he was really looking forward to being a dad, and that breaks my heart more than anything.
Stephen's father, Jeff, wants body-worn cameras, a police and ambulance alert system and stab vests to help paramedics feel safer. The family of a concreter who died after being coward punched at Melbourne's Crown Casino have faced their son's killing.